Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to sew a balanced dart. So this is our balanced dart. I've got my dart here sewn, and we added an extra piece of fabric while we were sewing it. That way when we go ahead to press it open, we can press it open and it will be balanced on both sides. And you won't have to cut a slit down this side of this and having that open raw edge here on your fabric. So let's get started. Alright, the first thing that we need to do is on our fabric piece, I'm going to be doing this on a pair of trousers that I'm making. So this is my pant leg. And so we need to make sure that we're going to do it on the opposite leg side. So I'm going to be doing this other leg, which will be this side. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is mark my dart. Alright, so here I have my lines marked earlier for my pattern here. This is where the dart is going to go. And now I'm going to go ahead and measure the down point, matching it up to this other pant leg, that way they are both even. So from the top down to the center, it's going to be a teeny tiny bit more than 10 centimeters. So right here I'm going to measure in the middle. The middle is... So I've got 4, so 2 here. I'm going to measure down 10 centimeters. Right. And now with this one, I like to do a curved dart. That way for our pins, it will be a bit of a curved, matching that curve of the butt, rather than just a straight curve. So I'm going to use my ruler here to mark out this one. And I'm going to mark the same on this other side. Alright, now that I have my dart marked, I'm going to go ahead and grab a scrap piece of fabric. This is going to be that balanced part of the dart on here. And I want my dart to come this direction. This is going to be the inside of the pants. I'm going to match this up. I'm going to go ahead and pin it. So my line should match up perfectly here. So for now to do. Alright, and we're just gonna go ahead and check and make sure that our darts are on the opposite sides. So this is my one pant leg. I've got the dart facing in that I've just pinned here. And this is my other pant leg, and it should be the opposite, which it is. So this is my inside curve, and I've got my dart sewn here. Right, so now we can go ahead and sew this dart here. Alright, with our sewing machine, I'll go ahead and turn it on. So here I've got my dart pinned. Now with this piece of scrap fabric, what we're going to do is we're going to set it down underneath, just like that, enough so that this is going to be the same amount. So later this is going to get folded out like this, so it should need to be like the same amount, if not a little bit more than that original dart. I'm just using a piece of scrap that I had there, and that's how it is. So I'm just laying underneath it. And now when I get ready to go and sew, actually I'm gonna pull this up a little bit further. Alright, I'm going to follow my line. Tips for sewing darts: if you're going to start to sew off of the fabric, so don't start right where you're going to sew it. You don't want to backstitch because that can give you a little bit of extra bulk at the end. So what you want to do is leave your tail strings a little bit extra long, and you'll go ahead and tie the knot with that extra fabric there. So I'm not going to backstitch neither to begin or to end, especially at the ending point, because we want that to be a nice and crisp point there. And we're just going to go ahead and follow the line here. Mine is a bit curved, which is how I want it to be. And I just went straight off the edge there. Right, so now I have that dart nicely sewn. I've got my curve here going. I'm going to leave those tail strings long, extra long. All right, so now I have my dart here. I've got an extra piece of fabric here. What we're gonna go ahead and do is open this dart up. So I've got 2 pieces on this side and 2 pieces on this side. And I'm gonna go ahead and stitch the ditch here. Okay. Since your dart is a little curved, you do want to make sure that you're not going to sew any of the fabric. You want to pull this very tight, and we're just going to stitch along this line. Just go slow and pull it as you are going. And I'm just going to go ahead and sew off the edge. I'm going to leave those tail strings extra long here. Okay. Alright, so now we've got that extra fabric sewn on. We've got our dart here. So now more or less we have a balanced dart. Our last step on here is to cut down this fabric so it's the same size as this one. I just usually go ahead and match it up. And you can either cut it as you go, or you can go ahead, I'm gonna mark it just to make sure that I don't cut anything that I don't want to be cut. So I went ahead and I marked that, and now I'm going to cut off the excess here. And first I'm going to, since I went off the edge here, I'm going to take out these few stitches here. And being careful not to cut my thread here. I just want to take out the stitches. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Along this line here. Just making sure not to cut any threads that you're going to want to use to tie out these ends here. Alright, and now using those threads that I left extra long, I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot with them. That way my stitching will not come undone. So this is essentially your back stitching, making sure that it's not going to come undone. We just want to do tying the threads together, that way those ends will be nice and crisp and you won't notice any kind of bolt from extra back stitching on there, okay? I'm just going to go ahead and do a third knot for luck. Right. And these are the two other threads from the second line of stitching the ditch. I'm going to tie those as well, just to make sure nothing's going to come out. Alright, and I just go ahead and clip those strings, and I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to tie those threads. Alright, well I have two threads here and one thread here, and one tie them together, and I'm going to cross my fingers so nothing is going to come. Alright, roll this together, snip our threads, and there you have it. That is our balanced dart. So you can now go ahead and press it open, and you have these two edges done. If you want, you can go ahead, and I think the best option here would be to take a needle and do a hand overcast stitch. You can serge the edge if you would like, but then if you go ahead and press it, you might see that serging coming out on the other side. Here's what it looks like on the other side, nice and smooth to our end point, and we'll go ahead and press that open. A nice finish there to that edge. You can see that that dart is a bit curved for that butt area, and there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that hand overcast stitch just so you can see it. I'm going to take some thread, and I'm going to double up my thread, but you can also just do it with a single thread. And there should begin. I'm going to do those two layers together at the same time. I'm just going to begin here. I think this is also known as like the blanket stitch, I believe. Alright, there we go. So I have that line of stitching going over the top here. There we go. I'm not too worried about this coming undone, so I'm just doing nice big stitches. Also, just to hold these two pieces together. Yeah. You can also check out my other video. I do a video on different edge finishes, so you can decide if you like one of those better than this one, and also see a more detailed explanation of how to do this stitch. And I'm just going to go ahead and tie off my needle. And I'm going to go ahead and clip that string. Just leave my needle threaded. And there we have it, our completely finished balanced dart with that edge here nice and overcast. This is for a pair of pants, but you can go ahead and use it on lots of different other garments. That can be useful when you don't want to have that raw edge, you know, sticking out, or you don't want the dart pressed just to one side and you want it balanced. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, that you found useful. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.